Have you?
Yeah,
That's
from
exciting.
the
Yeah.
New Year thing. Well, I didn't think that was meant
This
to be.
look, this is better than the tripod.
It actually is.
Oh God, look at my hair. Sticky out bit there, beard all over the place. It's still got to get sorted out tomorrow. And I'm using a completely different device to hold the phone. So this is actually my little handheld um, Sega gamepad that Bluetooths my phone for me to play Sonic the Hedgehog. So I put the phone in that, and it's resting on top of a Pringles can. Okay, so as always with spoilers, this is. I don't know where we're up to. Was that episode 12?
So it's whatever the penultimate episode is.
12 then, because there's 13, definitely. So, Discovery Season 3, Episode 12. Didn't catch the title, if I'm totally honest. And yeah, I enjoyed it more than I have in weeks, I'll be honest. It was much more fun. I think there was very much. Shadow obviously has an opinion this week. Yeah, babe.
That opinion is pay attention to me.
Yeah, Star Trek's rubbish. I'm a cat. So, just please don't put your bum in the camera. So it's what was I saying? Starship Mine. Yes. It was very much we can do Die Hard. Picard's already done Die Hard in like 30 years ago, and it also deployed several plot devices from Next Gen in the same way. So they mentioned the baryonic sweep, which is what Picard was up against in that episode.
Did they?
The green thing. I'm sure at some point they mentioned it because I'm thinking about it. So the green thing that swept through the Enterprise and he ended up caught in that little window at the end of 10 Forward.
Yeah, but I don't remember them mentioning it. Sure, you didn't just go off on a tangent.
Might have done. So they may have mentioned it, is what we're saying. But certainly her crawling through, taking out the crew members one by one, Die Hard style, that was very A, Die Hard, and B, Starship Mine. And then I thought that the way she flushed the crew member out of the Jeffries tube was very reminiscent of how Geordie and Beverly put the fire out in Disaster. That's what they did. They strapped themselves in, did that really overacted count for the countdown from 5, or certainly LeVar Burton did, and then blew everything out while they sort of flailed around, and then and then what they had to scrabble around to hit the oxygen back on, didn't they?
Oh, I remember that one.
Obviously, Michael didn't have to do that. She just had to kind of not fall out at the last minute. So it was. But the thing I noticed this week was there seemed to be. I don't know if it was just something triggered in my head, and then I was looking for things that I found because I made sure I found them. But there seemed to be some sort of big Borg mention without ever mentioning them. So, like, they had a whole conversation about what the Emerald Chain and the Federation, what the advantage is of of them coming together. And they had this like whole 4 or 5 line bit of dialogue where they basically said we'd have the best of both worlds without ever using the phrase. And of course, the end of season 3 is where the best of both worlds was in Next Generation's timeline. Old Elphaba, not her name, Asira. I don't know if it's the actress has a lot of Botox or has had some sort of facial reconstructive surgery, but I've noticed that
you think about like the mouth,
she doesn't move. But that's like the Borg Queen. The Borg Queen was very. Alice Krieger had a very particular way of moving her top lip when she was the Borg Queen and stuff like that. So I was like, and there was this whole. Then there was a subtext between Stamets and Kenneth Mitchell's character, Nipple or something. Anyway, but it was very much she's not what she appears to be. So is there more to that than just you think she's nice and she's actually a bit of a cunt? I don't know. Because there was the whole throughout the middle of the episode, you definitely felt. I still feel, I think her offer was genuine. I think they've just made a mistake pissing her off, turning it down.
The impression I get is, at least in terms of that, I mean, I didn't really pick up Borg overtures as such.
There was something else as well, but I can't remember what it was.
But I think it's very much looking at Asira as a politician, basically.
Right.
And a very canny politician, because they make the point of the fact that empires fall.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, effectively, Asira's, it's, you could also probably draw parallels with things like Mirror Universe, through a Mirror Darkly, all of that sort of stuff, two sides of the same coin, blah, 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 blah. In that you've got effectively two organisations who have both experienced the same thing, which is the burn.
Ooh, burn!
The Federation, obviously, absolutely decimated by the burn, both literally with the number of ships they lost, and metaphorically in terms of how much they've shrunk, all the planets that have left, including Earth, Vulcan, all of the key players in what we think of as traditional Federation, and they're off in the arse end of nowhere with like a fraction of their power, but they've confronted the after effects of the burn by basically trying to cling even tighter to what made them the Federation. Whereas then you've got an organisation like the Emerald Chain, which obviously has sprung out of Orion Andorian mergers, that's kind of basically taken it as a fresh chance, and they've basically kind of gone off in a completely different direction. Because you have that whole thing, and I'm pretty certain it's going to piss off at least a few people watching it, which is the allegory between the Emerald Chain being very much late stage capitalism. They're based on mercantile concerns. They're all about commerce and the good and the bad that comes with that. And the Federation has always been portrayed, even in the original stuff, it's a post-scarcity society. People don't have to work. There is no real money as such. It's basically, you can look at it as it's socialism taken to its logical extreme, which is people do things because they want to do them, not because they have to pay bills or any of this.
How very Billy Piper.
So it is. I think there is a real allegory there in that it's basically late stage socialism versus late stage capitalism. And I think it's probably fairly safe to say where Discovery's sort of showrunners and writers have planted themselves on that particular spectrum in terms of comparing the two. But I think Asira is very much that she knows that things are limited. Yes, she's got all of the great scientific minds going on, and it's probably very clear the subtext from that is that they haven't really been able to come up with anything that replaces dilithium. Which is why they're so focused on the spore drive, and I think they tend to very much be on we'll merge it. It's a chance for Asira to keep power, because it's very obvious that what she was planning to do, and you see this from the negotiation sort of subplot, is that she basically wants to be the power behind the throne of this new merged sort of Federation. I suppose Emerald Federation chain. I don't know what they'd call it.
The Femeraldation chain.
To be decided. I think it's probably going to be that one. But it's also very much set up that this is almost like the Federation's crucible. It's basically, do they agree with it? Because essentially it's like they're portraying it as a deal with the devil. It's very obvious they're portraying it because they make a big thing about how the Emerald Chain still has things like slavery, all of the bad stuff. Capitalism evil. So do they compromise on their own principles to basically effectively save themselves and go forward into a new future? But yeah, I mean, I liked this episode a lot. It was a much more sort of action-based episode. It's probably actually worth pointing out with the Die Hard comments earlier that Michael was actually only responsible for killing one member of crew, because the first one that she tangled with, she only knocked out. and he came.
Yeah, it was only the one that got blasted into space, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not like she went on like a a murderous rampage, wiping out forces left, right, and centre.
She should have.
She probably should have, but then it would have been the Michael Burnham show again. It was nice to see Tilly again, and it's very obvious that Tilly is very much growing into her character more and more. There was quite a nice little bit between her and Booker about halfway through where it's basically she's...
I know you don't trust me, but I do have a plan.
Yeah.
In that bit.
Yeah. And it's that whole... Yeah, she does actually know what she's doing.
I love Tilly.
So I'm kind of very curious to see what they do in the final episode with her, because I think this is very much... This is like her equivalent in live action of Deanna's command exam, essentially. Yeah,
but Deanna did then crash the ship twice.
Yes, but that's a whole separate issue to do with... I'm sure she did it actually more than that. I'm sure there's a running joke that she always crashes the ship whenever she's put in charge of...
I mean, she couldn't help it in Generations, to be fair.
Yeah.
That was a shockwave that they just got fucked up by. But Deanna still crashes the ship.
Yeah. But she's literally doing her command exam in real time, and they even had the whole sort of allusion to that, where it's the whole, if this is what we're going to do, if anyone kind of drops along the way, you leave them. You go and effectively, she's already passed that exam. She has clearly no issues with the idea of leaving a crew member behind to save, the greater number of people.
Are you implying that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one?
Or the one, yes. So yeah, I think good things ahead for Tilly, hopefully, unless they massively screw the pooch in the next episode.
Like Killer.
Well, there is that. I don't think they would, to be honest.
No. Unless the actress wanted to leave, but
again, I think she's liking... I've seen stuff where she talks about how it's good.
Yeah. That
Discovery is actually having a major role for someone who is not a traditional Hollywood stick, essentially.
Yeah.
Which,
a normal person,
yes.
A proper shaped person
with curves,
and she's fabulous and she's gorgeous and she's got that amazing hair. I mean, she's
ginger as well, so
Yeah, exactly. What I was about to say, sort of like tubby, but I don't mean that in a nasty way, because clearly, it's felt like over here. A curvy ginger. Wow.
Yeah. Which also links in quite nicely, because one of the things we actually found out when we were Googling, what was his name again?
Kenneth Mitchell?
Kenneth
Mitchell, I think.
Because initially we thought, is he Jonathan Frakes' son?
You see now, because the episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes, that would make sense. Which is another link back to the Borg, because that's a First Contact link. Which is also, that reminded me of the one I was trying to think of earlier, was the opera. There was that really loud opera, and it sounded a bit like the opera that played in this. When Picard goes to his ready room, where he's basically told you're not allowed to go and fight, he has that really loud opera. I remember that because I worked at cinema then, and it used to really reverberate around the cinema. It sounded amazing.
Except I think that's there because it's already been established.
It's the Culber reference, isn't it? But
because obviously Stamets knows a lot about opera because of Hugh being a huge opera fan. You had the whole thing with, was it the Caecilian opera? I think it was, where like they do their opera and then they kill themselves or something.
There was a thing
drastic, but that's artists.
but like I said, it was one of those things where once it was in my head, I think I found connection. Finish off now, fuck. No, once I'd seen a link, I think I started making connections. I freely admit there probably is nothing behind it. It was just, there were lots of little things that you could attribute back to. Oh, is that a Borg reference?
I do think, though, something that you said is possibly true, because, and it's one thing I do actually agree with your observation on as well, is there is evidently something going on in terms of why Asira is so keen to make this sort of, I suppose, unification with the Federation. Which is that, yes, she's clearly a very canny political operative. Yes, she's seeing the chance to continue, her power behind the throne aspect. Although I think even realistically, she would have to realise, with the best will in the world, her power would be sort of curtailed in a federation because it's not just her pulling the strings at that point.
Yeah.
But whether there is some deeper, darker threat out there that the Emerald Chain, either through its scientific progress or because it's very clear that the Emerald Chain covers a wider area of space than the Federation does because of the Federation's kind of shrunk in on itself as a result of the burn.
The Emerald Train. I don't know why it's taken me this long to clock it, but the Emerald Train, the Emerald Train. It's due in at quarter past. That'd be over the engine. He was green, or Henry.
The Fat Controller
was Henry green. Well,
no, because it wasn't Thomas Stack Engine.
Thomas was blue.
Was blue.
Yeah, I think Henry was green, and James was green. I don't know. Anyway,
really
none of that was what I was going to talk about. What I was going to say was, I can't believe I've not spotted that the Emerald Chain are, for all intents and purposes, just the Dominion.
Yes.
They're like a carbon copy. They've even got a woman whose face doesn't quite move as the thing. I mean, that's going to sound really awful if that genuinely is she's got some sort of disability. But anyway.
Especially because it actually linked into
the actress
before we went off on another tangent, as we so rarely do on these things.
Yeah, we're up to 16 minutes.
Was when we were looking up, I forgot his name again.
Kenneth Mitchell. Because I thought he might have been Jonathan Frakes' son.
Yes. So we did some sort of Googling. Well, I say we did some Googling. And it
my shoulder
out
apparently.
That he actually was it ALS he has?
He has ALS. Yes.
So the actor actually has to use a motorised wheelchair. Sorry, we've got another cat now trying to jump up, and he's right behind the camera, so he will knock it.
Now, okay, Sarah, go on.
But
just keep talking. I'll do this.
But basically, he has ALS, so he has to use a wheelchair in real life. So I thought that was actually... There we go. We knew it was going to happen. It happened.
It spun.
It was actually a really nice thing to see that... Because clearly, I think from looking at sort of the work he'd done, a lot of the recent work he's done, it's like voice work or similar. So it's probably quite unusual for him to get a major role where he's basically himself. I'm also
wondering how did the wheelchair? Did they green screen out the support unit it was on, or was he on like a wire system?
That's an idea. But it was actually nice to, again, it's a tick in the diversity and inclusion box, but it's a good tick because it's not one that like leaps out of you like it does with some shows where it's like they're trying too hard. So yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, that is Discovery's strength, is it deals with a lot of inclusivity issues, I think, by not dealing with them.
Yeah.
It does that whole thing that I've banged on about for years, where I used to get quite grumpy about Pride and go, oh, you shouldn't need Pride, you shouldn't need to sort of separate yourself. Well, unfortunately, that's not quite the case because there's still work to be done, and that's why you do need it. But, by Discovery's time, Ideal World, things just aren't mentioned because there's no need.
Yeah.
And I think it does do it really, really well, actually.
Yeah. Like, main character Michael, having, in our time, a traditionally male name for a female character.
Do you know the funny thing is since this Discovery started, can't say I'd really clocked it before, but I have noticed on TV shows and credits and things, there are more female Michaels about than you would realise, and they're all got to be 30s, 40s, 50s. So it's obviously been a thing for longer than I've been aware of it. I've only been aware of it since Discovery. I think just because traditionally here Michael would be a male name, but apparently it would appear that it's not necessarily actually the case. Say something else, it's completely gone.
Was it to do with the Emerald Chain?
Might be to do with Michael Burnham, though.
And diversity and inclusion?
No. I don't think this is it, but I've just thought about this anyway. I did notice in this episode there is I love Shanuka Martin Green, fantastic actress, fucking awesome. But she's got a couple of stock, I mean, as all actors do, a couple of stock reactions in certain situations. And she's got one which is the whole, I've just realised something, Faisal. It's the turn to the side, and it's not the raised eyebrow, but
It's almost like a glare.
Yeah, it's almost like but that's obviously not stupidly over exaggerated. It came up in this episode, and I just had a little thing. It's either a Shaniquoism or a Michael Burnhamism. I don't know. But yeah,
I'd be inclined to say it's possibly a Michael sort of Burnham, because it's very much the look she gives when she's like not happy about a situation. Because in this one, she'd just been caught, even though I think she clearly knew she was.
Oh no, you're on a different. The scene I'm on is right at the beginning, when they're all still on the bridge. There was I can't remember what happened or what the line was
On the bridge
of Discovery. The crew, Tilly's still sat in the captain's chair. You know,
right.
It was right near the beginning. And it was a whole. Oh my god, this is about to happen. It was when she gives. It's when she kind of like drops a plot point.
Okay, I don't know what expression you're talking about.
No, I'll have to find it. Anyway, so yeah, so I enjoyed it a lot more this week. I think it's a lot more. So what's you know, we've got one episode left. Excuse me. Obviously we didn't see anything of the three guys left on the planet at all. Saru and Culber and Adira. So we don't know what their situation is. Please don't kill Culber again. Like again. Whether Doug Jones maybe wanted to move on, so they get rid of Saru. He seems out of the three of them the likeliest not to return. I would have said, because I think also there's a certain amount of his character has gone as far as it can go, and he almost needs to step aside to let some of the lower characters bloom. I'm expecting Detmer to die anytime soon, because they've given a character who's been in the background for ages some really decent development in recent weeks. And as we know with Discovery, unless you're one of the hardcore crew, that normally means you're about to fucking die. So bye Detmer, bye history girl.
I don't think she will, to be honest, because
I hope not. I really hope not, because I'm really impressed with it. I'm impressed with all of the crew, to be honest. Even those two boys who don't really get to do a lot, who actually had something to do this week. I know one of them's called Reese, because I was like, no, well, nice Welsh name.
Yeah, isn't it like one of them's like
Reese and
comms,
Nathan, or I don't know. Yeah, anyway,
like comms and science officer or something.
Yeah,
like
something like that. But yeah, I think all because Detmer's the only name I've clocked out of all of them, apart from Tilly, out of that gang. So I don't know the other girl, who's normally at the helm, who has the most amazing shiny eyeshadow.
Yeah, because she's the one that cropped up initially back in the second season when they were going on to that like pre-warp planet, because of the society or the planet she comes from was very much basically as far as I can work out, it was effectively the Star Trek equivalent of the Amish, in that they live in a high-tech society, but they go back to
the black girl. Yeah. I don't remember that story for her at all.
Yeah, it was I think the early stages of the Red Angel storyline.
Right, okay.
It was when they went to like either the first or the second planet, and they basically crash land, and it's that. Again, it was very much a Trek
yeah, and they were in a barn for like most of the episode.
That's the one.
Yeah,
because you have the bit at the beginning where they're doing like the briefing of what to expect. So she's on there because she has experience of that kind of culture. Because the planet she grew up in was very much like.
Actually, if I sit back, like my arms look enormous, my head looks really small.
They do actually.
It does look ridiculous, doesn't it? So I need to be here.
Where it was, I'm practically perfect in every way.
Yes, you are.
Oh. But the only thing one thing I will say I did not like about this episode was Stamets.
Oh, sulky brat time.
Yeah.
I want to smack him.
Because
not Starfleet.
Totally,
not Starfleet.
I mean, totally get where the emotional response is coming from, because it links into what Paul was saying earlier about, please don't kill Culber off for a second bloody time. But the reality is, he's a senior Starfleet officer. He should be more than capable of realizing that what Michael was doing was absolutely the right thing to do under the circumstances. He is a key part in whatever plan Asira had for Discovery and the Spore Drive.
Well, all you got to do is ask yourself this: would Troy have behaved like that?
No.
Would O'Brien have behaved like that?
No.
Would the forever unpromoted Harry Kim have behaved like that? Possibly, actually. Bad example.
But that says more about Harry Kim than it does about Star Wars.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Harry
bless Garrett Wong, because he had, that should have been a part of a lifetime, and they just fucked him over from episode 3 onwards, basically. But bless him for sticking with it for 7 seasons and taking the pay. I would have done the same thing, I think.
Gets your name in credits.
Yeah. So. Oh, and of course there was Deep Space 253.
Yes.
Like, did we even hear ever of a Deep Space 10? Was there another one after 9 ever that we knew of? I'm not sure.
Possibly, yeah. They were always a bit vague about their...
Well, and how far out is 253? I mean, how much space have we covered now? Have we covered the galaxy? Is there any left?
Yeah, you kind of get the impression that they've clearly explored a lot more, but not a huge amount more because of the burn. Or that they probably did, and then it all just went back in again.
Yeah. I get that.
And obviously, in the 100-odd years since the burn, they've probably lost a lot of info. Blah 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 blah. But yes, going back to Stamets, just fucking grow up, you man-child. Stop with the emotional blackmail, which was just frankly disgusting. And I would like to say that if Hugh actually found out about this, if and when he gets back, that he would slap Stamets silly for being such a fucking self-absorbed criminal. Personally, I don't think it's fair on Stamets, because we've actually seen a lot of character development from Stamets from when he, again, to be fair, for all of them. Thank you again, Discovery, for learning from the mistakes of seasons 1 and mostly 2, where you actually need to develop all of your crew, not just like the 2 people.
Yeah.
Michael, we still love you, Sonequa. It literally just walks all of that back, and he is back to being the petulant, sulky man-child that he was right at the beginning of Discovery season 1, and it's just not on. So
yeah,
that's all I really have to say about that.
So we'll see what happens next week, I suppose.
Yes, fingers crossed.
We could keep going for another 3 minutes and make it a first half-an-hour video.
Didn't we actually nearly get to half?
I don't know.
I'm sure we've done one that's over half an
I don't
hour,
know.
because I remember making jokes about how it was nearly as long as the episode that we were reviewing.
Yeah, maybe.
But at least this one, I think, pretty much was actually all about the episode. Yes, I am absolutely still talking because I'm looking at the clock and we've still got 2.5 minutes to go.
No.